Well, yeah. I mean, my music past is pretty, in my opinion, it's kind of the best moments of my life in some ways, because when I must have been about 12, I think, when I first went to a music festival, and I didn't even want to go to the music festival. I remember it was my brother's idea. He was older. My dad said, "Okay, let's go. We'll go for one day." And I remember seeing a lot of famous bands, and there was one specific band which just caught my attention. Now,
Hello, 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 and welcome back to another native English speaker conversation. And you might be thinking right now, like, wait, I've got deja vu. This seems familiar. I feel like I've seen this before. And you probably have in different versions, multiple times on YouTube. Maybe you've heard us speaking together multiple times on Spotify as well, because we're kind of going back in time a little bit today. And myself and my former colleague and friend, still my friend, but former colleague, are getting together to have a little chat about life and allow you to learn more about Will and practice your English listening skills and learn some expressions and vocabulary at the same time. So I feel like I'm waffling on one of Will's favorite expressions. So I will allow him to introduce himself. So Will, welcome.
well, thank you very much. This is a nice introduction. Yeah, and personally never feel that you waffle on. It's more other people feel I waffle on because despite being or having been an English teacher, my communication skills are not that good, it seems. I
I
can
mean,
never find the right words, even in English.
mine are not very good. And it's weird how things change as soon as I turn it on because we
Yes.
were just having a little chat and I couldn't get my words out. And then I press record and I am another human being. So my communication skills aren't always the best either, but I try my best.
We do our best. We do our best. No, I know. Well, it's something I always found interesting, and it was something I thought that I'd ask you. Maybe you've already spoken about it, but when you obviously at the moment you're not in Spain, but let's say your origin story, at least with me, was in Spain. How did you feel when you first came to Spain? Did you feel overwhelmed by all of the language, and did you find those moments where you just wanted to stop and focus on English or watch something in English just to forget? Or did you embrace it and be like, no, even in the hard times, I need to be in Spanish?
It's all about suffering, you know? Well, I'll take it a step back because when I was in Argentina living with an Argentinian family for 6 months, I was in a town called Bahia Blanca. And at this point, I wasn't that good at Spanish, but I had been studying it for a while. And I was trying to kind of break through that barrier of not really feeling that confident. So I was watching loads of like telenovelas and like soap operas in like Argentinian Spanish. And my kind of comprehension and understanding was getting a lot better. But it's true that I was doing this like before I went to bed, after being immersed in Spanish all day. So I was just going hard in it and trying to push myself to be exposed to Spanish as much as possible. And the same thing happened when I moved to Spain a few years later. Because, yes, I was speaking English at work as an English teacher with other teachers at the academy. I'd sometimes chat to my girlfriend in English, but mainly in Spanish. And then I was watching a TV program called Cuéntame cómo te ha ido, se ha conocido la felicidad. Something like that. That's the theme tune. And the
Just
soap opera is called Cuéntame.
and just as a little a timeout, little Kit Kat, a little break. The My first landlord was the cinematographer of Quintame.
Okay. Wow. Claim to
It
fame.
was it was strange. He used to come to my house, and I'd say, how's he spoke English, and I said to him, what are you doing this weekend? He was like, well, we have the Goyas, which are like the Golden Globes or the BAFTAs of Spain. It's like, we've got the Goyas. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but okay, good, have fun. And then I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy, he's famous in the world of Spanish cinema. Yeah. So cuéntame, this really helped you with your Spanish.
It did, and it was amazing to actually learn all about like the Spanish history as well, because it gives you a really good insight into
Mhm.
what the country has kind of experienced in the last 50 years, give or take. So yeah, basically to answer your question, a long-winded answer is that I always tried to immerse myself in Spanish or any other language and stay away from English as much as possible. Just knowing that it was going to do me good and I was going to improve my Spanish as a result. And I believe in this, so everybody should be doing the same thing as well. Whenever you can watch a series, documentary, listen to a podcast, try to do it in English as much as possible, because all of this will force you to hopefully start thinking and living in English.
It's one of those things that it's so difficult. Learning a language is so difficult. And then once you start to study it, for example, at the very beginning, I'm talking, because for people who don't know, I moved to Spain 13 years ago and I knew zero Spanish. I knew how to say, "How old are you?" but I didn't know any of the numbers. And I could say hello and thank you. That's it. I could probably say the man is tall or something like this. So I was learning from scratch, from zero. And I remember I used to have I still do actually. I wonder if I've still got this one. This one's for Portuguese, but it's just basically a notebook just filled with the notes and I just read it. I don't study, I just read it. And then you're learning the animals, for example. And then you just start thinking, there are so many words I need to learn.
And so many animals.
Well, there's so many animals. That's the thing. You start thinking, okay, rabbit, okay, goat. And then you start getting, okay, hold on, dolphin, right? Okay. And then you start thinking, hold on, I need to also learn the parts of a car that
And
I
the fish as well.
go, oh, fish, mate. Ooh, don't even
So
get
many different varieties and
Well,
species.
then there's food, and it's overwhelming. But as you say, is kind of you just have to immerse yourself in it, and then gradually you start learning bit by bit. And but for me, it was really difficult. I remember.
Now,
Really.
let's get into that in more detail. But Will, you just swerved my initial question. And I wanted you to introduce yourself, and you've just been going on and on about random stuff. So first, many people, I'm sure, do not recognize you. They don't know who you are. You're a nobody. So,
Oh my
so
God!
do us all a favor. Tell everybody about you. Introduce yourself in a nutshell.
In a nutshell. Okay. Well, my name is William. All right. So nice to meet everyone. William Hall. If you want to find me on LinkedIn. Yeah, and I'm the CEO of COO. I don't know if I said that correctly. COO of Teachify, an English academy, teaching English and with an application to help you learn English on your phone. And I've been teaching in Spain for 13 years. I arrived here, came here with nothing, found a job. I remember my first job interview as an English teacher with a shirt and tie and a suit, and they were like, "Who's this guy?" And I was like, "I've made a mistake. Didn't really judge the dress code on this one." And yeah, so I been living here in Madrid for 13 years, and I would say I'm a failed musician. Or I tried in England, so then that's when I realized, okay, I need to find something else. So I came over here, learned a language, and now this is my home, Spain.
Act. Now, I was wondering, I was about to ask you a follow-up question because you said you were the CEO of Teachify. And I was thinking like, oh, really? That's changed? Has Mickey taken a step back and just become the founder or what? Because a bit of context, everybody, you might have already watched some of the previous podcasts that we used to do together for Teachify. You might have also seen the interview video podcast that I did with Mickey, the founder of CEO, back in February. But yeah, me and Will have worked together for the last like 5 years, give or take. And we had similar positions at Teachify. where I was in charge of the educational side of things and managing the team, doing interviews and stuff like that. And Will was always in charge of the client relationship and making sure that all of the paperwork and Excel files for attendance were all on point. So we shared a lot of responsibilities. And I was wondering, given that I left Teachify a few months ago, like, wow, have things changed? Have you become the CEO, Will?
I haven't. And you know what? This is a great example of, let's say, even native speakers can. I actually said COO, but I said it so fast, COO, it sounded like CEO. So that was why I realized, I was like, oh, that sounds like a mistake. But no, nothing's changed. I continue to be the COO and Mickey, the CEO. But so no, in this sense, nothing's changed. It's just my pronunciation has taken a hit. It's not the best at the moment.
Fact. And I mentioned that we've known each other properly for the last 5 years, give or take. However, we have been connected for a long time. You know, as they say, it's a small world. So, Will, how do we know each other?
Well, so you know what? This is the one of those crazy coincidences, and I've had two in my life, which are really well, maybe three, but the one of them was the first house I rented in Madrid. I knocked on the door to look at the flat, and the girl opened, and she was English, and I was like, "Oh, hi, you're from England," and I was like, "Oh, whereabouts are you from?" She's like, oh, "I'm from Colchester," which was where I was from in England. So the same town. And I was like, how old are you? Same age. And I was like, oh, but what school did you go to? She didn't go to the same school as me, but she went to a school with friends. I said, oh, so you know, blah, and I'm like, yeah, my best friends. I was like, oh my gosh, small world. Fast forward 10 years or however long, when I met you, I noticed the northern accent, this accent from a place, Bradford, Bingley, asking where you're from. And you said, oh, I'm from Bingley. And I remember, and yeah, my mum's entire family is from this small town. I don't know how many people are in Bingley.
Like 20,000 inhabitants or something like that. So it's pretty
Yeah.
small, but
So
between like Leeds, Bradford, relatively close to Manchester, but Manchester's like an hour and 15 minutes away. So I wouldn't say it's close, but if you're imagining a map and you're not sure where things are in the UK, it's near-ish to Manchester.
this is England's smaller, so an hour and a quarter is a long way. Whereas if you're in Spain, it's right next door. So but yeah, so Bingley, tiny city or town, and I was like, oh my god, my mum's family, my grandma lives in like wherever, and I said the name, and it turns out you lived maybe a few hundred meters from my grandma, so all my life traveling up and down that I can't remember the name of the street. I want to say, what's the name of the hill?
Park Road, maybe?
Park Road. Yeah, driving up and down Park Road, looking forward to seeing my grandma, walking around all those streets. So probably passed your house a million times as a kid. And and then we had this connection.
What a coincidence, you know? It
Crazy.
is a small world because obviously when you mentioned it, I think we had a look on like Google Maps and I was like, actually, it's literally like 6 minutes away walking. This is what Google is saying. So, wow, that's mental. That's crazy. It's mad.
Oh, strange. That blew my mind. That was a crazy thing. Yeah.
Now, we'll speak a lot about learning languages and about Teachify and about everything that you've been doing since you moved to Spain and hobbies as well. But first, you mentioned you were a little bit of a frustrated musician or rock star. So, tell us a little bit about your music past.
Well, yeah. I mean, my music past is pretty, in my opinion, it's kind of the best moments of my life in some ways, because when I must have been about 12, I think, when I first went to a music festival, and I didn't even want to go to the music festival. I remember it was my brother's idea. He was older. My dad said, "Okay, let's go. We'll go for one day." And I remember seeing a lot of famous bands, and there was one specific band which just caught my attention. Now, remember, I didn't like music really at this moment, but one band wore masks, crazy masks, and they wore like jumpsuits, which are like prison costumes with numbers on, and they look scary in the picture, in the pamphlet, or the flyer. And I remember thinking, oh, I want to see this show. And I was watching the bands, and it was all good. It was all interesting. And I remember I saw Rage Against the Machine and had no idea who they were. I was just like, that's good, I guess. But this band, they started their music with the concert. They started the concert. There was just a big siren going, wee, wee. And
Sounds horrible.
everyone ran to the stage because they knew what was about to happen. And then these 9 people in masks came on and just gave this amazing show, which was just crazy. They would jump. They were just, it seemed crazy at the time, probably very tame, but I was 12. And watching them in 1999, I think. And the guy who was playing guitar just had a cool look about him. And I remember thinking, oh, I want to learn to play guitar. It looks cool. What he was doing, the way he was moving his finger. I was like, I want to do this. So I got a guitar, and I started with classical lessons, and I was doing classical guitar, but at the same time was more interested in this heavy metal stuff that was going on. It was very easy to play at that point, and then grunge. And I just started, as soon the better and better I got, the more advanced the music got. And then I became obsessed. I was playing, no exaggeration, I would say 8 hours a day. And I would, or more actually. And then, so I decided not to do A levels. I left school at 16. I left formal education. I went to a music school at 16. Did a couple of years in this music school, learning more or less nothing because I was studying myself at home. So I remember going to classes and thinking, yeah, I know this. I did that. I've done this. I'll just head home and play guitar. So I just spent all day, every day playing guitar. Then finally went to Brighton, spent a year in Brighton, and went to a very, very specific academy only for guitars. And had a very famous teachers, and one of them especially. That's where I just became obsessed. So I was hyper obsessed with guitar. I played at the same time, I played in a band. And the band was good. It was in we played concerts, and I would drive from Brighton to Sheffield, play a concert in one night, and then drive all the way back to Brighton that night. And then I'd drive to Nottingham, Bristol, Leeds, all over the country, London lots. And we had a good band. It was a metal band. There were about 1 million of us, but we enjoyed it. And gradually after the university where I studied music, was still playing a lot, recording a lot. We became a little bit bigger in the local scene. We had trips around Europe where we played concerts, and we played a little spot on a festival where no one knew who we were. We were just filling time, but they were some of the best times just because we were traveling around Europe in a van, drinking, listening to music, stopping, sleeping, drinking, camping, playing concerts. It was just a crazy time.
Living the good life.
It was crazy. And then when I was about 23, I had one objective, which was to play the Camden Underworld, which is a music venue in London, where I used to watch all of my favorite bands. It was my favorite venue, and it was my dream to play there. And we played there. And once we played there, almost everything left me. I was suddenly
completed it, done it. Music,
it was kind of this, but it was also, I started thinking, hold on, Will, this is great, but let's say how many bands last 10 years? And then I started thinking, not a lot, okay? And of those bands, when they finish, even if they finish after 20 years, what do they work? Like, their CV is just a band. So I was like, I think I need to take this moment now and do something else. And that was that. So I just basically put a complete stop to it and said to the guys, I'm like, guys, I'm leaving the band. And I wrote everything. So they were like, oh, well, that's that then. That's the band finished.
So the band didn't like try to continue with adding a new group member or anything like that?
No, so because as I said, I was hyper obsessed. So I would spend all day writing writing the music, writing the songs. I'd write it all I can't even think the manuscript for all of the musicians. I'd send it to them by email. Say you need to learn this by band practice. Go to band practice, then we do it. And it was really difficult music to play. So as soon as I said I'm stopped, they were all relieved. They were like, this dictating
Finally.
one. And so what they did is they formed a wedding band where they just learned covers and started earning way more money than we earned. And they just started playing in weddings. And yeah, they had a
It
good
worked
time.
out for everybody in the end. So you were
Absolutely.
living the dream, traveling around in your camper van, moving around from city to city, going abroad as well, festivals, living the life of a rock star. And then when you decide to make this mature decision to think about other options for your future, was it immediately obvious to you that you wanted to move abroad and become an English teacher, or what?
No, it wasn't immediate. So basically, what happened was I kind of had this realization of, okay, this is probably the odds. The odds are not in my favor, which I think is the opposite of what they say in Hunger Games. But yeah, it was not the probability of success was low. So I was a little bit in limbo. My brother had already kind of invited me into doing marketing and stuff like that, and I was saying, I don't want to do that. I just want to play guitar. And then I spoke to a friend who was also in a band, and his girlfriend said, I went to teach English in Madrid with this company. And I said, oh, really? And suddenly, I'd been to Rome. I'd never been to Madrid, and the idea when I went to Rome was like, I want to live in a city like this.
Mhm.
So suddenly, I had this idea of like, oh, living in a foreign city sounds like a fun idea. I can teach English, and the objective was, well, maybe I could teach music there because I was teaching music in England as well, and I thought, okay, that's it. All right, I'm going to go to Madrid. And I remember saying to my parents, I was like, guys, sorted. I'm going to go to
See you
Madrid.
later. Goodbye.
Well,
I'll see you
it
once or
was
twice a year.
the problem was, Lewis, is I needed a little kick up the backside because I said to my parents, guys, don't worry, got it figured out. I'm going to go to Madrid and I'm going to be an English teacher. I'm going to learn Spanish and I'm going to become a music teacher in Spain, or a guitar teacher, music, whatever. I said, perfect. I said, great. Then a few weeks passed and I had done nothing. And then a month or so passed and my dad was like, Will, are you going to do this? I was like, yeah. It's like, well, go do it. And
Just
I was like,
living my best life, back in
like,
college.
it was in my mind. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this, but it was always, I'm going to. It was never, I'm, I'm doing. So my dad said, okay, well, let's go to the computer now and set it up. And I was like, fine, I don't care. So I went to the computer, typed into the name of the company, and sent my application off. And no joke, within an hour, I had a family reach out to me and say, "Yeah, we would love to take you on." They put the conditions, which were all perfect, and they said, "Would you be able to come in February?" And this must have been November or whatever. It was about 4 months away or something, and I was like, "Oh, this is real." I
I don't
I
want to leave anymore.
was exactly. I was
Mum,
living my
Dad,
best
can I
life.
stay with you?
So yeah, so that was it. And then basically I just I was like, okay, let's do it. So I accepted it. And I had a huge anxiety, but I just decided, okay, 4 months, let's go crazy in my hometown. And I just was out every night, just doing I just enjoyed life, knew that I wasn't going to stay there. So did everything I could in the hometown, partying, just, no responsibilities. So then packed my bags and came to Madrid. And then that's when I stopped guitar.
And was it around this time that you also met Mickey, the founder and CEO of Teachify? Because, of course, we mentioned that we have a strange connection because we kind of could have met or crossed paths at some point in the past. But you had also done your TEFL course with Mickey. Was this at this time, or was it before then or after then?
That's a very good
If you
question.
remember, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to remember because, I mean, I think I decided to, it must have been a little bit before this. I think I did my TEFL course, thinking that this is it. Okay, I've done my TEFL course. Now I can relax and my parents will leave me alone and I can just continue whatever. And so I must have done my TEFL course. And on that TEFL course, we had 2 days in London where we actually had to practice and teach people or teach the other people, teach the other teachers, basically. It wasn't best, if I'm honest with you. But me and Mickey were grouped together and we both had a very similar personality. We both kind of had a similar personality and we got along well from the start. We were paired together. And both of us, we noticed we both had this kind of competitive side to us. And it was, so we stayed in contact. It was, I think, just me and him. We were the only people who stayed in contact. And a few people added on Facebook. And then I could see they never did anything. But Mickey, I saw, moved to Spain, or had moved back to Spain the same time as I moved to Spain. So we kind of stayed more or less in contact. Every now and then would send each other a message, see how things are going. He would ask me, do you know a good place, blah, 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 Madrid? And then I'd ask him, I might go to Sevilla, blah, blah, blah. And so we stayed in contact. And then in the end, something happened. And he reached out and said, do you know anyone in Madrid who would be interested in kind of heading Teachify in Madrid? And I was looking for an out at my job. So I said, I think I do, Mickey. I will happily throw my name in the hat and you can see if you're interested, basically.
And with all of this, like obviously you had been working as an English teacher in Madrid for a few years before then, and before you accepted the job to work at Teachify, which was, I believe, the week that the lockdown started in Spain. So, the less we speak about that, probably the better. But with your previous English teaching experience in Spain, was it like in company classes? Was it teaching children? Were you like an au pair? What was it like?
So I moved here to be, it was called a language assistant, which was basically I lived with a family. I didn't have to take care of the kids, but I just had to speak English in the house with them, help them with their homework, and that was it. But during the day when they were at school, I was just bored. I had nothing to do, and I thought, okay, well, let's find a job. So I found a job in a company. I was so naive because I was just taking the first job. So I sent my CV out and everyone came back at me and was like, yes, please, because everyone wanted a native English guy who was 24 to come in and teach. And so I found a school so I lived in Madrid city center. And then I found a school which was in Pozuelo, which is like, it was maybe half an hour, 40 minutes on the train, plus walking, etc. Completely inconvenient. But it was my first job interview and they offered me the job. And it was basically teaching even further out, okay, in a place called La Finca, which is where Cristiano Ronaldo and Jose Mourinho lived, all of this at the time. But there was a business park. So they had Accenture, who's a big company, Orange, Microsoft, were all here. They said, can you teach here? I was like, yeah, sure. And they said, okay, can you start Monday? I was like, yeah, okay. oh, is that training? And I was like, oh, no, no, no. I mean, you'll be fine. You know,
Just
I mean, you
speak
did,
English, it'll be all
you,
right.
this is, I didn't realize. I didn't realize anything. I was like, what am I don't know what I'm doing. I did that TEFL course, but it was not good. And I have zero training. And, you lie in your interview and they say, did you have to teach people? I was like, yeah, no problem. Yeah. So I was teaching all in company classes, a mixture of one-to-ones and groups. I was terrified at the beginning. I had huge anxiety. I've always had like this weird anxiety, which just makes me I can't eat. And I remember before one class, I literally had to go to the bathroom and you know, throw up and then spend the rest of the class trying not to throw up and making it look like I was okay. But I managed to get over this. And then, I was teaching in companies. I used to teach really interesting people. And as you know, and as teachers, we have very good relationship with the students. And Lewis, I just had some great students who they invited me to Real Madrid matches in the booths, in the boxes. They had season tickets. These people who are just from Madrid, they're
It
like,
sounds like a pretty good job. So my next question is like, if you had all of these perks of the job, like students inviting you to go watch Real Madrid in these like suites and booths, why did you want to leave?
well, because, and I think so. I was in that position for a while, and then I had a couple of, for example, in the morning was teaching those classes with the company, and then you gradually build a portfolio of private classes. So I was happy with this, but there was never that next step. I wasn't really. It's not what I wanted to do forever. I just enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, but I wanted to take the next step. So what I did was 6 years ago, in 2019, I made a presentation for the CEO of this company. It's quite a big company. I won't say who it is. Quite a big company in Spain, well, in the world, but in Spain as a language provider. And the proposal was um, kind of an Instagram account, kind of what you're doing, kind of an Instagram account, podcasting, YouTube videos, uh, all of this type of thing for kind of more modern engagement, modern marketing is like, this is what, maybe we can explore this. And I'd be more than happy to do this and grow this because I'd already started an Instagram project, which was just fun. And I'd sold courses with myself through that. So I thought, oh, maybe I can sell it to Berlitz and I can head it. And he just turned around and he was like, I mean, it's good, but I don't understand any of this. I'm an accountant and like by trade. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, I understand. That's why you would have someone else do it. Maybe I can do it. And he kind of just shot me down. And you know what his offer? He said, let me think about it. I'll make you an offer. And his offer was, if you post once a month on Instagram and once a month on LinkedIn, we'll pay you for your time. And I was posting 3 times a day on my personal page. And I think I just turned around to him and I said, just so you know, that's 3 minutes work. And no, thank you very much. But I want you to know that I'm going to do this myself. And that was the plan. I left it at that. I said, look, just so you know, I'm going to do this myself. And thank you, though. And I remember having weird calls with the marketing team. They're saying, oh, we need to do this. I was like, I'm not involved. I've said no. And they're like, no, but you can help. I was like, no, I'm done. And that's it. But while saying that, I deflated. So I didn't know what to do. And then I remember having conversations with my dad. I was like, I don't know what to do. These are dinosaurs in this company. They don't move. They don't know what they're like. They don't know what social media is. And I want to do this. And then that's when just the next week, Teachify. Mickey made that call, and I thought, ooh, maybe this is the right time to do it. So,
I'm curious because you mentioned that you had your social media accounts. If anybody's interested and you'd like to check out Will back in the day, is what was the account? The English Vibe, it's called?
that's exact. Yeah. I had the, hold on.
It's still public, right? People can access it.
I assume so. I haven't touched it, obviously, for,
I mean, let's
it's
make
still
one
there.
of those videos blow up.
All right.
Let's make one of those videos blow up. If everybody
Well,
starts watching it then and it goes
it
viral.
was, the thing is that I just posted, I've just realized that the last videos, if you can see it, just looks as if I'm telling everyone that I don't know, they're giving bad news.
So you're messing around.
But yeah, basically, at the time I had 3,600 followers, which, I mean, remember, this is 6 years ago, and just organically from just posting every day. And I remember people would say, "Oh, that's you," like some of my students. So a lot of people followed them. I just posted phrasal verbs every day, kind of very colorful, and people liked it. A very, very good interaction.
With all of this, obviously, you continued to create the same kind of graphics for Teachify for quite a long time. You continued to do live classes on the Teachify account. But it seems like over a period of time, you kind of fell out of love with doing these kind of things. And you obviously passed on some of the responsibility to me to focus on creating content for social media and all of these things. What was it about making videos and making content that after a while you kind of weren't passionate about doing anymore?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, because at the time, I mean, we kind of, I don't want to say, we didn't, that's definitely a bad phrase, what I was going to say. I was going to say we struck gold with the pandemic, but no, because I decided to stop. And then as soon as I joined Teachify, I was pushing, I came in and I tried to push the Instagram account saying, look, guys, I'll do this. This is what I'm doing with this. Maybe this can bring in some clients. And then the pandemic hit, and the whole world kind of turned to Instagram for, workout influencers. So they were doing exercises with people. So there were a lot of people following those English classes, and it was always good fun. And creating the content, the phrasal verbs, etc., relatively easy. It was nice. But then we were doing it for such a long time, and then other responsibilities started creeping in, and then it just became a little bit of a nuisance. And then at the time, there wasn't technology for subtitles. Well, there was probably technology, but it was much more complicated. Now it's all automated. And it just became a little bit of a hassle of one of those things. It was like, another one. And then as soon as it becomes another one, the enthusiasm that someone else might have is definitely better than someone who's like, I have to do this. So that was basically it. It was, and I'd found more or less, I think it took a little bit of time, but I'd found my place in Teachify as kind of being a more client-based and oriented rather than the actual pedagogical side. So I think it kind of made sense for you who was more pedagogical based to continue the learning online. And it seems you've done well with it. Very well with it.
Thank you. Now, moving on from this, because I want to ask you different things and we're running out of time already, waffling on, as we mentioned at the beginning of the video call. And to waffle on is basically to speak about something without really getting to a point, kind of beating around the bush slightly. But continuing with Teachify and also one of your hobbies, which is technology and artificial intelligence and AI, I'm curious, what are your predictions for Teachify, but also for the sector of learning English online in general? How do you foresee this changing and evolving and revolutionizing in the upcoming year, 2 years, or even decade?
So, yeah, it's a very good question. It's something that I can't share everything, but even though if when this comes out, maybe it's been launched. But I think that with this artificial intelligence, there are, at the moment, we'll just use ChatGPT as an example. At the moment, I would say that kind of maybe less than 5% of people really know the best way to extract the best parts of it. So, for example, I'm learning Portuguese. I speak Spanish. I speak English. Learning Portuguese, and I use ChatGPT on my phone. I created a Portuguese teacher.
Joao, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, he's a good man. Yeah, really nice guy.
Legend.
Yeah, from Rio de Janeiro. And he. So what I do is when I have my free time, I put my AirPods in, click the voice mode with Joao, and I am cooking or cleaning, and I'm having a conversation with Joao. He's asking me questions. I'm speaking back. He's correcting me. Now you maybe you need a minimum level. You need to be able to have a little conversation, but he's practicing and I'm explaining. He's asking me questions related to what I want, my hobbies, etc., which I'm talking about. And this, for example, for me, opened my eyes to a whole world of if you can use the current technology as a teacher, then with a little bit of help and maybe the unifying, for example, teaching English classes in person with a real person, because people like real people. Some people are very anti-technology for whatever reason. But if you embrace it, then you can use that combination. So, for example, we have the Teachify application where you can do exactly what I said. At the moment, there's still some small improvements, but that's the great thing about it is as AI is improving, then we can just improve the application. So it's getting better and better. And I think it's going to become a big player. And I think that I remember thinking 10 years ago that there will be no English jobs, no English teaching, because Google will create something where it's just real-time translation. I have less faith in that now. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. I think it might happen, for example, on Zoom calls, but it's never going to be an in-person thing. Maybe not in my lifetime. But I think that AI is something that once it becomes the norm, I think kids these days are going to be learning it in the school. It's going to progress. That is going to help a lot with the language learning. And I think that teaching is going to become a little bit more difficult I reckon there will be less teachers because there will be less job opportunities, but the price of having an actual English teacher, maybe it would increase due to the lesser.
It's interesting because we've had this discussion on multiple occasions. I've always been a little bit more skeptical or hesitant to adopt all of this technology, whereas Will has been more of an early adopter, so to speak, who's always been curious and investigating, looking into the possibilities. And I have converted a little bit from being skeptical to embracing it, as you mentioned. And I think that there is a really nice quote that you see all the time on LinkedIn, and it is that AI or robots aren't going to steal your job, but someone using AI will. So it's basically if you don't start to get with the times and use AI to become more efficient and more productive, then of course your output will be inferior and will be less than other people. And if we're always competing in this capitalistic world, then we need our output to be as optimal as possible. So I use ChatGPT all the time. I've tried what you mentioned with Joao. I tried to create one myself called Pierre to improve my French.
How did it go?
It went well, but I think one of the things that is difficult is to have the willpower and the routine to force yourself to do it, because there's nobody else kind of keeping you accountable. Whereas
That's right.
If you are signing up to classes with a teacher, then you have this relationship with that teacher. You might look forward to having a chat with this teacher and learning and speaking about a new topic, which you just don't really get from an AI bot, even if the AI bot is cheaper, possibly even better in some cases, on demand as well, you have to be the one taking the initiative to make that learning happen. And that's why I kind of haven't really bothered to continue. I might restart, but I think it's nice to have a combination of these things where you can have a chat with AI, but you can also have a friend or colleague that you have regular like checkups with to have a chat or have a little conversation or a debate or a presentation. And having these two, I think, is a nice little crossover just to stay motivated, not rely solely on willpower, and have the human touch, but also the robot touch at the same time.
It's the thing is, I agree with you because, for example, when you have an English class with a student, often you create a good relationship, but the teacher will remember what's happened and will show genuine enthusiasm. For example, how at the weekend you were going to do blah blah blah. How was it? Was it good? So you have that real connection, which is why I said I don't think it's. I was skeptical at first, but I said I don't think teaching is going to completely disappear. But for example, certainly 10 years ago, it was so easy to find an English teaching job because all of the companies needed it, and there were so many English teachers. Now with the applications and these type of tools, companies can save a little bit of money and think that that's the solution. And it's not, because as you say, willpower, which, as my name is Will,
You should change your last name.
Yeah.
My name's not William Hall, it's Will Power.
Willpower is so important, and it is one of the most difficult things. And which is something a tip I always give to students. No one ever does it, but something that I used to do was I'd say, convert your hobbies into that language. So whatever language you're learning, let's say you're learning, in your case, French. I might learn a little bit of French. I've been watching Emily in Paris. Love it. And going to Paris in a couple of weeks. So yeah, just a nice little break. And I love the language. And but for example, I love, as I think you were going to mention, chess. Okay, I love chess. So instead of reading the books in English or watching the videos or the content or whatever it is, learning things in English, I think I know English. So that's fine. Let's put it as the target language. So I haven't done it in Portuguese, but I was doing it in Spanish, because then I learned all of the vocabulary in Spanish. And it's an obstacle, but I want the knowledge of, or I want to know the video, or I want the book. So it becomes a little bit of challenge, but there's that extra motivation of it's not just studying, it's you want to consume the content. Or Marca, when I was learning Spanish, I would read Marca, and I'd read it in Spanish because I want to know what's happening in the world of football. And there's the obstacle of the Spanish, but the end goal is the content, and then you learn at the same time. But no one ever does it, and even me, sometimes it's difficult. I have to.
Yeah, it's a very good tip, and this is why I always advocate like immersion. That anything you would normally do in your mother tongue, try to do it in the language that you're learning. So if you like football, you read Marca, you listen to a podcast, you watch football, then you have all of these kind of ways of consuming the language, that you're doing it in something that you actually enjoy. So you're going to more likely stay motivated to continue doing it, because learning a language and staying on top of that language is kind of like going to the gym, and it's like working out. If you stop doing it, then you do get rusty. So you have to make sure that it is a part of your life for like the long term. Of course, when you become like completely fluent, then you don't need to stay on top of it as much. But from time to time, you do just need to like brush up on it just a little bit.
Sorry, I was going to say another thing is it the same with the gym is when you see results, you want to do it more. So when you see results in your language learning, you will want to do it more. So it's a good comparison, I think, the gym and the language.
For sure. Now, I think we could have a chat about many, many different things for a long time, but let me just finish with some quick fire questions. So
Okay,
now you are not allowed to waffle on. Okay.
I'll do my best.
What is your favorite dish? It could be a starter, it could be a main, it could be a dessert. The
Uh,
number one dish, if you have to choose, what would it be?
it's going to be boring. Eh? It's going to be just a good steak with chips and these peppers from specific peppers from Spain, the pimientos de padrón. I will always order this.
It's a good choice. It's a good choice. And what's your favorite drink?
Beer. uh, lager. Ooh, Guinness is good, eh? But lager, I would say beer. Maybe Estrella Galicia or Alhambra, which are two Spanish beers. I love red wine as well, but beer is probably my favorite drink.
Choice. If you didn't live in Madrid, where would you live?
Paris.
Why?
Okay. Well, so this is okay. This I could give you two answers. Okay. One of them is a secret place that no one seems to know, which is called Peñíscola on the east coast of Spain, which I love. But this is complete tranquility, living by the beach, doing nothing, have a dog, just live your life, and it's affordable. It's an affordable dream. I love the city of Paris. And if I had a salary where I could afford a good life in Paris, then I would choose Paris. It would require learning French because I don't think you can really love or understand a city until you speak the language and you can immerse yourself a little bit more in the culture, like Spain and Madrid as I have here. But Paris I just think it's beautiful. I love the people, even though they don't have the best fame, the best, best reputation. Yeah, the best reputation. But I love them. I had an amazing time. I found them very cool. Yeah, I just love it. I love the elegance. It was great.
Perfect.
Paris.
And what is the best TV series that you've watched recently? So not the best of all time, but the best that you've watched, let's say, in the last year, give or take.
Gotcha. I've seen a lot because I got Apple TV. Just a student convinced me. He said, just pay for a month. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll pay for a month. And they have the best series, hands down. There's not a lot, but they have quality over quantity by far. And there's one called Crowded Room, which is it's about a boy, a young man, I should say, who's a little bit troubled, gets himself into some issues, don't really know exactly why or what's happening, what's brought this on, etc. And it's a nice mini-series, 10 episodes, and Tom Holland is amazing in it. I really respect his acting skills. I can't really give too much information about it because it's one of those series that you watch it and it's a little by little, you're like, oh, whoa. So I would say Crowded Room on Apple TV is probably the best one I've seen recently.
And the last question, which I'm kind of curious about, if your band had been super successful, do you think you would prefer to have that life right now than the life that you have at the moment?
Great question.
I'm just making it up as I go along.
Yeah. No, it's
a good one.
That's a really good question. I'm going to say no because I'm not one of those people who say no regrets, because I have a lot of regrets, doing stupid things, tattoos for some, for example. No, I mean, that life, I'm just really happy now. I enjoy my life. I just love exactly where I am. I have if I wanted to do something special, I can do it. And it feels special. And I don't need to worry about bills. Because if you're in a band, you're going to be worrying about, oh, this could go away at any moment. But and it's the same with life here. But I don't have that. I don't feel it. I kind of live day by day. And no, I would say I'm susceptible to vices. As I said, favorite drink is beer. Anything I become a little bit obsessed with. I can become obsessed with the gym, even though it doesn't show, because I also become obsessed with beer and food.
That's fine, balancing act.
So so I just kind of I find myself kind of obsessing over small things. And as a musician, the guitar, for example, was huge. And I also young guitarists today completely would blow me out of the water. Like I was a high level guitar player when I stopped at 23, 24, but that was just before like Instagram and the YouTube boom. When the YouTube boom came out, the guitar level of everyone just started going crazy, that it's almost like a different instrument. And so now I would be out. And my competitive nature would make me sad, I think.
So on that note, we'll leave it like that, because you're not sad at the moment. You're in a very happy place, and you're going to visit Paris, your possibly favorite city in the world, in a couple of weeks. So enjoy the city of love. Who knows? Maybe you'll do some romantic things whilst you're there.
If they're free, I will.
Exactly. We will see. But no, it's been a pleasure getting together and having a little chat. And there's something that you haven't realized, because you made this little joke like 15 minutes ago. And as the host of the podcast, I have the power to edit your name.
Hey!
Your name is Willpower.
Right. Willpower. This is it. I always, when teaching people my thing, they say will. I say will is a great thing because it means willpower, but it's also the document when you die. So you have two things there.
You have to write a will.
That's right.
Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. I hope you found it very interesting to find out more about Will. As he mentioned earlier, his name isn't Willpower, it is William Hall. So if you'd like to connect with him on LinkedIn, then be my guest. Go ahead. And if you have any further questions for him, let us know in the comments. And thank you, Willpower.
No, my pleasure. Thank you very much, Lewis. And thank you to all your listeners. I hope, I'd be invited back sometime.
For sure. Thank you, everybody, and see you next time. Bye-bye.